Welcome back to a spooky lunch with goosebumps. Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns by R.L. Stein. Chapter 6. We need special decorations, Shanna said. Not the same old pumpkins and skeletons. Yeah, something scarier. Shane chimed in. I think jack-o'-lanterns are plenty scary, I insisted, especially when you put candles in them and their dark faces light up with those jagged, evil grins. Jack-o'-lanterns are babyish, Walker argued. No one is afraid of a jack-o'-lantern. Shayna is right. If we're going to scare Tabby and Lee, we need something better. A week before Halloween, the four of us were hard at work at my house. We were working on my Halloween party. Yes, last year, the party was at my house. Why did I decide to have the party? For only one reason. For revenge. For revenge on Tabby and Lee. Walker, Shane, Shanna, and I spent the entire year talking about it, dreaming up plans, dreaming up the most frightening scares we could imagine. We didn't want to pull a mean joke like having people break into the house. That was too mean and too frightening. Some of my friends still have bad dreams about guys in ski masks and gorilla masks. The four of us didn't want to terrify all of our guests. We just want to embarrass Tabby and Lee and scare them out of their skins. Now, a week before the big night, we were sitting around my living room after dinner. We should have been doing homework, but Halloween was too near. We had no time for homework. We had to spend all of our time making evil plans. Shane and Shanna had a lot of really frightening ideas. They both looked so sweet and innocent. But once you get to know them, they're pretty weird. Walker and I wanted to keep our scares simple. The simpler, the scarier. That's what we thought. I wanted to drop fake cobwebs over Tabby and Lee from the stairway. I know a store that sells really sticky, scratchy cobwebs. Walker has a tarantula that he keeps in a glass cage in his room. A live tarantula. He thought maybe we could tangle the tarantula in the cobwebs and then drop it in Tabby's hair. Not a bad idea. Walker also wanted to cut a trap door in the living room floor. When Tabby and Lee stepped on the spot, we'll open the trap door and they would disappear into the basement. I had to reject that idea. I liked it, but I wasn't sure how Mom and Dad would react when they discovered us sewing up the floor. Also, I just wanted to terrify the two creeps. I didn't want to break their necks. Where are we going to put the fake blood puddles? Shane asked. He held a red plastic puddle of blood in each hand. He and his sister had bought a dozen fake blood puddles at a costume store. They came in different sizes and looked very real. And don't forget the green slime, Shanna reminded us. She had 3 plastic bags of slime beside her. Walker and I opened one of the bags and felt the slimy, sticky, oozy gunk. Where did you buy this? I asked. At the same store? No, it came out of Shanna's nose. Shane joked. With an angry cry, Shayna hoisted up with one of the bags. She swung it in front of her, threatening to smack her brother with it. He laughed and bounced off the couch. Ha! Whoa, whoa, whoa! Careful! I cried. If that bag breaks, maybe we can hang the slime from the ceiling, Walker suggested. Yeah, cool, Shane cried excitedly. And it could drip down on Tabby and Lee. Maybe we could cover them in it, Walker added excitedly. and they looked like two sticky green blobs. Glub, glub, glub. Shayna thrusted out her arms and pretended she was drowning under a puddle of slime. Will it stick to the ceiling? I asked. How will we keep it up there long enough? How will we get the two of them to stand under it? I'm the practical one in the group. They have a lot of wild ideas, but they never know how to make them work. That's my 7. Staring into the darkness, the whispered words sent a shiver down my back. Come with me. Come home with me now. Come home to where you belong. Come to your grave, Tabby and Lee. I have come for you and you alone. Come, Tabby and Lee. Come with me now. That's excellent, I cried. The lights flashed back on. Across from me, Shane and Shanna clapped and cheered. Good job, Walker. I turned to congratulate him. He set a recorder on the coffee table in front of us. I think it would scare them, he said. It scared me, I told him, and I knew what it was. When the lights go out and the voice starts to whisper, it will creep everyone out, Shanna exclaimed, especially with it playing from right under the couch. Who recorded the voice? Shane asked Walker. Did you do it? Walker nodded. Cool, Shane said. He turned to me. But Drew, I still think you should let Shanna and me do some of our scares on Tabby and Lee. Let's save those for when we really need them, I replied. I bent down and opened one of the plastic bags. I dug a hand in and pulled out a big chunk of green slime. It felt cold and gooey in my hand. I worked it around in my palm, squeezing it and shaping it. Then I rolled it into a ball. Think it's sticky enough to hang from the ceiling? I asked. It would be a nice effect to have it running down the walls. I think, no, I've got a better idea, Walker interrupted. The lights all go out, right? And the creepy voice starts to whisper. And when it whispers their name, when it whispers, come to your grave, Tabby and Lee, then someone sneaks up behind each of them and drops a huge glob of slime on their heads. That's cool, Shane declared. We all laughed and cheered. We had some good ideas, but we needed more. I didn't want to slip up. I didn't want Tabby and Lee to think it was funny, all a big joke. I wanted them to be scared with a capital SCARED. So we thought of more scary ideas and more ideas. We worked all week from after school until late at night, setting traps, hiding little creepy surprises all over the living room. We carved the ugliest jack-o'-lanterns you ever saw, and we filled them with real-looking plastic cockroaches. We made an 8-foot tall paper-mache monster, and we rigged it to fall out of the coat closet when we pulled the string. We bought real looking rubber snakes and worms and spiders and hid them all around the house. We didn't eat or sleep. We dragged ourselves through school thinking only about more ways to terrify our two special guests. Finally, Halloween arrived. The four of us gathered at my house. We were too tense to sit still or even stand still. We moved around the house, barely speaking to each other, and we carefully checked and rechecked all of the frightening traps and tricks we had prepared. I had never worked so hard in all of my life. Never. I spent so much time getting ready for the party and our revenge that I didn't even think of my Halloween costume until the very last minute. And so I ended up wearing the same Klingon costume I had worn the year before. Walker was a pirate that year. He had a patch over one eye and wore a striped shirt and a parrot on one shoulder. Shane and Shanna had dressed as some kind of creatures. I couldn't really tell what they were supposed to be. We didn't care about our costumes. We only cared about scaring Tabby and Lee. And then, as we paced the living room nervously, 1 hour before the party was to start, the phone rang and we received a call that filled us all with horror. Chapter 8. I was standing right next to the phone when it rang. The harsh buzz nearly made me jump out of my skin. Was I a little tense? Yes. I grabbed the phone in the middle of the first ring. Hello? I heard a familiar voice on the other end. Hi, Drew. It's Tabby. Tabby, I cried. I decided she was calling to find out what time the party started. The party starts at 8, I said. But if you and Lee, that's why I'm calling, Tabby interrupted. Lee and I can't come tonight. Huh? The phone dropped out of my hand. It clattered to the floor. I dove to pick up the receiver, stumbled, and nearly knocked the whole table over. What? What did you say? I demanded. Lee and I can't come. Tabby repeated the chilling words. We're going to Lee's cousins instead. His cousin gets to trick or treat until midnight. He does 4 different neighborhoods. He promised we'll get bags and bags of candy. Sorry. But Tabby, I started to protest weakly. Sorry, she said. See you. Bye. She hung up. I let out a hoarse wail and sank to my knees on the floor. What's wrong? Walker demanded. They, I couldn't get the words out. My 3 friends huddled around me. Walker tried to pull me to my feet, but my head was spinning. I didn't want to stand up. They're not coming. I finally managed to choke out. Not coming. Oh, Walker replied softly. Shane and Shanna shook their heads glumly, but didn't say a word. We all stayed frozen in place, stunned, too miserable to talk, thinking about all the work, all the planning, and all the hard work. A whole year of planning and working. I'm not going to cry. I told myself I feel like crying, but I'm not going to do it. I climbed shakily to my feet and glanced at the couch. What is that? I shrieked. Everyone turned and saw what I saw, a huge, ugly hole in one of the brown leather couch cushions. Oh no, Shanna wailed. I was playing with a ball of green slime. I must have dropped it onto the couch when I stood up. It, it burnt a hole in the cushion. Quick, cover it up before Mom and Dad see it. I started. Of course, Mom and Dad came strolling into the living room. How's it going? Dad asked. All ready for your guests? I crossed my fingers and prayed they wouldn't see the huge hole in the couch. Good heavens! What happened to the couch? Mom shrieked. It took Mom and Dad a long time to get over the ruined couch. And it took me even longer to get over the ruined party. That's how it went last year. 2 years, 2 years of ruined Halloweens. Now it's a year later. Halloween time again. This year we have twice as much reason to get revenge on Tabby and Lee. If only we had a plan. Chapter 9. This year, I'm a space princess, Tabby announced. She had her blonde hair piled high once again with the same rhinestone tiara in it, and she wore the same long lacy dress, the same costume as 2 years ago. But to add the outer space look, Tabby had painted her face bright green. She always has to be a princess, I thought bitterly. Green or not green, she's still a princess. Lee showed up in a cape and tights and said he was Superman. He said it was his little brother's costume. He told us why he didn't have time to get a costume of his own. But I couldn't understand him because of the big wad of bubble gum in his mouth. Walker and I had decided to be ghosts. We cut eye holes and bed sheets, and armholes, and that was that. My sheet dragged behind me on the grass. I should have cut it shorter, but it was too late. We were already on our way to trick or treat. Where are Shane and Shanna? Lee asked. I guess we'll catch up with them, I replied. I raised my trick or treat bag in front of me. Let's get going. The four of us stepped out into a clear, cold night. A pale half moon floated low over the houses. The grass shone gray under a light blanket of frost. We stopped at the bottom of my driveway. A minivan rumbled by. I saw two big dogs peering out the back window. The driver slowed to stare at us as she passed by. Where shall we start? Tabby asked. Lee mumbled something I didn't understand. I want to trick or treat all night, Walker exclaimed. This may be our last trick or treat night ever. Excuse me? What do you mean? Tabby demanded, turning her green face to him. Next year we'll be teenagers, Walker explained. We'll be too old to trick or treat. Kind of a sad thought. I tried to take a deep breath of cool air, but I had forgotten to cut a nose or mouth hole in the sheet. We hadn't even left my front yard, and I was already starting to feel hot. Let's start at the Willows, I suggested. The Willows is a neighborhood of small houses. It starts on the other side of a small woods, just 2 blocks away. Why the Willows? Tabby demanded, fiddling with her tiara. Because the houses are real close together, I told her. We won't have to walk much, and we'll get a lot of candy. No long driveways to walk up and down. Sounds good, Lee agreed. We started walking along the curb. Across the street, I saw two monsters and a skeleton making their way across a front yard. Little kids, followed by a father. The wind fluttered my costume as we walked. My shoes crunched over frost covered dead leaves. The sky seemed to grow darker as we made our way past the bare black trees of the woods. A few minutes later, we reached the first block of the Willows. Streetlights cast a warm yellow glow over the neighborhood. A lot of the houses were decorated with orange and green lights. Cutouts of witches and goblins and flickering jack-o'-lanterns. Four of us began walking from house to house, gleefully yelling, "Trick or treat!" and collecting all kinds of candy. People oohed and ahed over Tabby's princess costume. She was the only one in our group who had bothered to put on a decent costume. So I guess she stood out. We passed by a lot of other kids as we made our way down the block. Most of them appeared younger than us. One kid was dressed as a milk carton. He even had all the nutritional information printed on one side. It took us about half an hour to do both sides of the street. The Willows end in a cul-de-sac, kind of a dead end. Where to next? Tabby asked. Whoa, wait, one more house, Walker said. He pointed to a small brick house set back in the trees. I didn't see that one, I said. I guess because it's the only house that isn't right on the street. The lights are on and they've got a pumpkin in the window, Walker announced. Let's check it out. We trooped up to the front stoop and pushed the doorbell. The front door swung open instantly. A small, white-haired woman poked out her head. She squinted through thick eyeglasses at us. Trick or treat, the four of us chanted. Oh my goodness, she exclaimed. She pressed wrinkled hands against her cheeks. What wonderful costumes! Huh? Wonderful costumes, I thought. 2 bed sheets and a borrowed Superman suit from last year. The old woman turned back into the house. Forrest, come see this, she called. You've got to see these costumes. I heard a man cough from somewhere deep inside the house. Come in, please, come in, the old woman pleaded. I want my husband to see you. She stepped back to make room for us to enter. The four of us hesitated. Come in, she insisted. Forrest has to see your costumes. But it's hard for him to get up, please. Tabby led the way into the house. We stepped into a tiny, dimly lit living room. A fire blazed in a small brick fireplace against one wall. The room felt like a blast furnace. It had to be 500 degrees in there. The woman shut the front door behind us. Forrest! Forrest! She called. She turned to us and smiled. He's in the back room. Follow me. She opened the door and let us enter. To my surprise, the back room was enormous and jammed with kids in costume. Whoa! I cried out, startled. My eyes quickly swept the room. Most of the kids had taken off their masks. Some of them were crying, some were red faced and angry. Several kids sat cross legged on the floor, their expressions glum. What's going on? Tabby demanded shrilly. Her eyes bulged wide with fear. What are they all doing here? Lee asked, swallowing hard. A red faced little man with shaggy white hair came hobbling out from the corner, leaning on a white cane. I like your costumes, he said, grinning at us. We have to go now, Tabby stammered. We all turned to the door. The old lady had shut it behind her. I glanced back at the kids in costumes. There were at least 24 of them. They all looked so frightened and unhappy. We have to go, Tabby repeated shrilly. Yeah, let us out of here, Lee insisted. The old man smiled. The woman stepped up beside him. You have to stay, she said. We like to look at your costumes. You can't go, the old man added, leaning heavily on his cane. We have to look at your costumes. Huh? What are you saying? How long are you going to keep us here? Tabby cried. Forever, the old couple replied in unison. Chapter 10. That was my daydream. I was down by the street in front of my house waiting for my friends to show up and daydreaming about Tabby and Lee being trapped by a weird old couple who liked to collect trick-or-treaters and keep them forever. Of course, in my daydream, Walker and I sneaked out a side door. But Tabby and Lee were caught before they could escape, and they were never seen again. Nice daydream, huh? I was still picturing the whole thing when Walker, Shane, and Shanna finally arrived, and we eagerly trooped inside and up to my room. Drew, why are you grinning like that? Shanna demanded, dropping down onto the edge of my bed. Whew, I was just having a very funny daydream, I told her, about Tabby and Lee. What could be funny about those two creeps? Walker demanded. He picked up a tennis ball from the floor and tossed it to Shane. The two of them started tossing the ball back and forth across my room. It was very funny, I replied, sitting up and stretching, especially the ending. I told them the whole daydream. I could see from the smiles on their faces that they enjoyed it. But Shanna scolded me. We don't have time for daydreams, Drew. We need a real plan. It's almost Halloween. Walker tossed the tennis ball too high. It smashed into my dresser lamp and knocked it over. Shane hurtled toward the lamp and made a diving catch before it hit the floor. Way to go, Walker cried. Catch of the month. He slapped Shane a high five. He hit Shane so hard the poor guy almost dropped the lamp. I growled at Walker and pointed to the desk chair. Sit down. We have serious thinking to do. She's right, Shanna agreed. We have to scare Tabby and Lee out of their skins this year. We have to pay them back for the last 2 years. We have to. So what are we going to do? Walker demanded, dropping his long, lanky body onto the desk chair. Hide behind some bushes and yell, boo? Bad attitude. I've been thinking of some really scary things we could do at a party, I started. I think no party, Shanna interrupted. Right, no party, her twin agreed. We worked so hard on last year's party, and then Tabby and Lee didn't show up. Grrr. Just thinking about last year made me growl. Well, if we don't scare them at a Halloween party, where do we scare them? Walker asked, tapping out a rhythm with his fingers on the desk. Shane and I have some really good ideas, Shanna said. Yeah, I think you have to listen to Shayna and me this year, Shane chimed in. We have a really good plan. It will have them shaking for a year. Really? Walker pulled the desk chair closer. Shane sat on the floor beside him. I leaned closer to Shanna on the bed. Speaking in a low voice just above a whisper, Shanna told Walker and me their plan. A very scary plan. It gave me a chill just hearing Shayna describe it. It's very simple, Shayna finished. Very easy to do, and there's no way it won't work. We'll give Tabby and Lee a Halloween they'll never forget, Shane boasted. It's really mean, Walker murmured. I gazed at the chubby, pink-cheeked twins. They were so cute looking, so sweet and innocent, but their plan to frighten Tabby and Lee really was truly horrifying. It's mean, I agreed, and it's cruel, and it's terribly gross and shocking, I grinned. I like it. We all laughed. So we agree, Shane asked. We're doing it. We all agreed. We all solemnly shook hands. Great, Shanna declared. So, Drew, all you have to do is invite them to come trick or treating with you. Shane and I will do the rest. No problem, I replied, still grinning. No problem. We all cheered and congratulated each other. We knew this was the year, our year. Shanna started to say something else, but my mom poked her head into the room. What are you four plotting so seriously? Mom asked. Ugh, nothing, Walker answered quickly. Just making plans for Halloween, Mom, I told her. Mom bit her lower lip. Her expression turned serious. You know, Drew, she said, shaking her head, I don't think I can let you go trick or treating this year.
To be continued.